Okidoki. Season 2 for Alice in Borderland is coming out soon, so let's take a trip back to memory lane and revisit Season 1. If you don't know, the Borderlands is this mysterious, near-empty city that resembles Tokyo, which has trapped countless Japanese citizens within its confines. Have they been transported into a post-apocalyptic future? Have aliens abducted them and trapped them in a VR world? Nobody knows. The only thing that's concrete is that players need to join the various games that sprout up in the night if they want to survive, unless the lasers in the sky seem like a better alternative. Now, this is a death game concept taken from a manga by Haro Aso, which I have read and I would recommend if you haven't. I won't talk about anything past Season 1, but I'll reference what has been covered. Now, what I love about Borderlands is how deceitful some of the games are. A good example would be the Four of Clubs, or the distance game in episode 4. Basically, the game takes place in a highway tunnel and the players need to get to the goal under the time limit. So, your first assumption is probably, it's kind of like a marathon. Get to the end of the tunnel or something. Time to do some stretches or put on the running shoes.
Think fast, Chuckle Nuts!
However, things start to unravel when you take a step back. See, each game is represented by a playing card, and they all hold a different meaning. While the number of the cards indicate the difficulty of the game, the suits indicate what kind of game it will be. Spades are physical games, diamonds use your intelligence, hearts deal with psychology, and clubs are all about balance. What that means is that it's either a game of teamwork or games that take samples from the other suits, which doesn't make sense in the context of the Four of Clubs, because at this point it seems more like a spades game than a clubs game. Unless the game has tricked you. See, the more the players go down the tunnel, the higher their counter increases on their phones, which indicates how many steps they have taken. What most players fail to realize is that, why would you need a step counter to tell you how far you've traveled? Wouldn't it be more beneficial to have it show the distance away from the goal? Well, that's exactly what it's doing. The counter starts at 0. They've been running away from the goal this entire time. The bus they started in was spray painted with the word goal in giant letters, but they failed to think things through critically and missed a literal sign right in front of them. This whole world is just so cruel. Everyone could have survived if they just stayed on the bus for a few moments and looked around, but everyone's too worried about beating the clock. There's so much of this cruelty in the Borderlands, especially with the hard games we see in Season 1. But most, if not all, the numbered cards can be beaten with 0 deaths. The climax of the season makes that very obvious, but the structure of every game is meant to work against the players to increase the amount of people that just die, which has led to some debate, especially around the 7 of Hearts game, Hide and Seek in episode 3. This one has our players strap AR glasses and bomb collars to their head, and the players are separated into wolves and sheeps. The wolf need to make eye contact with a sheep to turn them into a wolf. However, when the time limit is over, everyone but the wolf dies. First of all, this game still devastates me whenever I revisit the show or the manga. This is the turning point where everyone realizes, oh shit, this just got real. This is the marble game from Squid Game before Squid Game even existed. Still hurts me that Alice in Borderland isn't as popular. But going back to the 0 deaths, this game seems like one, if not the only game where there's 0 chances of that all players can survive. There's a lot of discussion over possible ways to cheat the game, like whether they can use reflection to get multiple wolves, or if they can cut the wires on the collars to stop the bombs, because there isn't a rule about tampering with the collars, so we can only assume whether trying to remove them would detonate them or not. It hasn't been confirmed that there was ever another way to win the 7 of Hearts with all players coming out alive, and I like that aspect because it's a constant haunting regret for Arisu, wondering if there was something he missed, something he could have tried differently that would have saved all his friends. Funny enough, rewinding back a bit, Arisu and Usagi were never in the Four of Clubs game in the manga. The Four of Clubs was a side story mostly played by characters that get introduced just for this one game, which I wish the Netflix show would keep. I understand that limited episode lengths don't allow this and they don't want to stray away from familiar characters, but these side stories do so much to flesh out the world a bit more by showing completely separate players struggling to survive on their own, and it removes some of the predictability by allowing all the players an equal chance of not making it out alive, which actually kind of shows in the writing of the Four of Clubs, because we're supposed to believe that Arisu ran for half the time limit, found a motorbike that doesn't work, ran back to the bus carrying a motorbike in the remaining half of the time limit so he could fill it up with the gas tank in the motorbike, and brought the bus back while Usagi was able to outrun a tidal wave, swallowing everyone in its path. There's actually a lot of conveniences added in the Netflix show that stood out to me. Like in episode 1, when they first discovered the players all have this visa, and this random guy comes in and basically says, "This is what happens when a visa expires!" In the manga, it's explained by Saori while Arisu is out wandering, and he stumbles upon a guy hiding in a storage room, losing his mind because his days are numbered. It just feels a bit more organic in the manga. There are a few other things, like how the very first games in both mediums are the weakest because they both don't do an amazing job of introducing Arisu's memory and observational ability. Netflix has him remembering the exact length of a BMW to calculate the length of a building, and the manga creates this weird backstory where Arisu notices that the bully beating him up has this hair on his mole and uses that to bully him back. I never liked how convoluted the solutions are for the first games as well, and it especially stands out when every game afterwards has win states that don't feel like they've been pulled out from thin air. I imagine the first games turned off quite a few viewers, which is such a shame because of how good the story actually is. But it's time for Season 2. We're going to be introduced to the face card games, where the main difference is that it's no longer player versus player. The Jacks, Kings and Queens now enter the arena to further decrease the population of the Borderlands. Out of all the games, I really hope they keep the side story Jack of Hearts. It's one of my favorite games in the manga, and I worry it's not even going to be included because it's not important to the main plot, and it would be difficult if they did want to rewrite it to include Arisu. I want it to be completely unchanged though, but that's just my wishful thinking. Either way, Season 2, I can't wait for it to arrive. Thanks for watching. If you want a sky laser to penetrate my skull, let me know in the comments below, and tell me your thoughts while you're down there. Like and subscribe for more content, let me know if there's something you'd like me to cover. I like talking about anything that interests me. That's all I want to say. I hope you all have a good day.